What's up, fam? We are so excited to share this episode with you guys this week. We were recently asked to put on a live event for WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, which is a university in the Massachusetts area. We obviously recorded it for you guys. It went really well, and we want to share this experience with you all this week.
Yes, hope you enjoy.
So normally we don't introduce ourselves on our podcast, but we are going to do it for this occasion, of course. So just real quick, my name is Asia. I am a co-host of the podcast, obviously. Little background, I work full-time in nonprofit. I work at a food bank, and I do this on the side. Jared and I went to Stonehill College together. I don't know if anyone's heard of Stonehill before.
Whoop, whoop.
Jared and I went to Stonehill together. We graduated like 1,000 years ago, and we are here now to talk to you all about this very exciting topic during Black History Month.
Yes, we're very old. We're very washed. Just trying to get through adulting. So Asia created this great podcast, and I tagged along. But hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. My name is Jared. Co-host with Asia with the Done With Adulting podcast. Like she said, we went to Stonehill College, which I think is Southeast Mass.
Yeah,
something like that.
Brockton
I graduated
area.
2013.
Mm-hmm.
She graduated 2014. So
just so long ago.
It seems like forever ago, but I miss it every day.
So we are excited to have Noelle and Kristophe here. I will just first ask you both to introduce yourselves. We'll start with Noelle, and then we will sort of get into the meat of it.
Hi, my name is Noelle Morgan. I'm a junior at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I'm studying electrical and computer engineering, but I'm also here to represent the Women Interested in Zeta Club on our campus. I'm our president, and we are working to charter a chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated here at WPI. I'm also here to represent our chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers. Kristophe.
We love that.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kristophe Zephyrin. He, him, his pronouns. I am a senior studying civil engineering with a double major in environmental and sustainability studies at WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I am a proud brother of the Alpha Kappa chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And I also represent NSBE, among other things.
Nice. I love that.
You guys sound active and engaged throughout the campus, which is pretty dope.
Yeah.
A lot of things going on.
So that's really cool. I want to before we got on this podcast, Jared and I were like, we've been wanting to interview college students for like ever now. I feel like y'all's generation is just lit. And like, even though you're going to school and trying to finish what you're trying to do in a pandemic, which is crazy, I don't even know if I would have been able to do that. So shouts out to y'all. We just want to know, and we can start with you, Kristophe. What has your experience so far been? I know you mentioned you're a senior, so you're almost done, which I'm sure those 4 years flew by for you. But what has your experience been so far as a Black man on a predominantly white campus?
Okay. It's been an experience. Right, in the rawest form, right? There's, highs and lows. Everybody talks about that, but literally, I feel like at times my life is a movie. Like I feel like dear white people scenes. Like I've had that happen.
Yeah.
But also like I'm kind of a huge nerd as well. So being at WPI specifically, I get to like flex that a lot because WPI we're a community of nerds, and I think I can speak for everybody. Who everybody else from the school who's on the call as well. We like doing the nerdy stuff too. So I've had like a plethora of like social experiences, but also like my academic ones have been super dope too. So.
Nice. And Noelle, we'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Yeah, so second on the nerdiness of WPI, I too am a very huge nerd. So like that's something that I really love about our school. There there's always going to be experiences that you love or don't love, kind of no matter where you go. And, that's WPI is not immune to that. I've had, run-ins with certain things. I've known friends and helped friends through run-ins with other things. And it's, I guess it's just a part of the experience. But overall, I am appreciative of the school that I'm able to attend.
So how has it been for both of you attending school during a pandemic with COVID going on?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Being supposed to be separated, probably getting tested weekly, bi-weekly.
What is your life like?
And I know both of you, you've been in school previously before the pandemic. So yeah, what's the difference in that?
So I'm completely remote. WPI is in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I am here in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, halfway down the East Coast, taking all of my classes online. Wow. And so right now, actually, I'm doing a co-op, also remotely.
Wow.
So I am I'm doing working on things that are also in Massachusetts and running programs. But like a lot of it is sitting at my computer, and that's kind of my whole day. Pretty much.
Wow.
It's a very different experience. I definitely miss being on campus and seeing my friends. Classes are different. There are pluses and minuses to each, to kind of all of it.
Yeah.
But it is very much you and the computer all day.
Staring at the screen nonstop.
Yep.
And you're on campus, right, yeah. Kristophe?
Yeah, so I have an off-campus apartment, but literally I'm like a hop, skip, and a jump from the WPI sign. So, even for me, it's a lot similar, right? A lot of times I'll be sitting at home for hours, and I wouldn't even know because I'm just go from one meeting to another meeting to class to do homework.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to make something to eat. All right, then I come back, sit down. I find myself in my room like it's a very comfortable place for me right now. And for me specifically, like. I had experiences where like I would be going to parties on Wednesdays in Boston, like the pre-corona, pre-pandemic stuff, and now like all that is done for me. So it's like, like
the social aspect of life kind of it got removed.
Yeah, it's like it's all gone. It's all gone. And you try your best, social media or whatever. Like I try to be as active as possible, but still, it's not the same. So.
Right. Yeah. I feel like we go through Zoom fatigue like at work, and I complain about this on a daily basis and a weekly basis on this podcast. But I feel like I couldn't, even when I was in school, I didn't really like online class. Like I preferred to be in the classroom.
Yeah. Feeling the energy.
Yeah.
Everybody involved.
So I can't even imagine. I feel like I want to move into, Jareed, if you have a different direction, take over. But I feel like I want to move into just the culture of our world right now and being a college student and everything that's going on, and this all of a sudden big uptake in the BLM movement in the past year.
Yeah, I was going to ask because, you all have been in school through a lot. Like we've had a president with a lot going on during his presidency, a new election, things like that. So how has, I guess, world events shaped everything that's happening on campus now with you guys?
Yeah, and I wanted just to provide context to that question. Like when Jareed and I were on campus, like I came to college with a BlackBerry. So like
we had some social media.
Instagram was a thing, but it was like the old version of Instagram that like you probably have not, I don't even know if you've seen this interface before, but it wasn't like
logo.
Yes, exactly.
It was the start
I remember that one.
It was like the start of Twitter.
It was the start of Twitter.
A huge thing.
And things just weren't, we obviously also went to a WPI. You know what? Your guys' initiatives of your school, and what's the other one? PWI.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to confuse me for the next hour. Predominantly white institution. So we both went to a predominantly white institution, and things just weren't this polarized when we were in school. And so even though we were dealing with being a Black student at PWI,
it wasn't as highlighted as
it wasn't as in your face as it is now. So maybe, and we can start with Kristophe, what has that experience been like, especially in the past year with all of this just rising of the movement, so to speak?
That's actually very funny because I feel like it's at times allowed me to be an activist, right? To speak my mind about things. But in other times it's also forced me to be an activist, specifically because I do go to a predominantly white institution.
Yeah.
I've been in situations where, people approach me with viewpoints that I don't particularly align with. And then upon explaining my part, it's like, oh, I've never even heard of that. And it's like, well, but then thinking back, it's also like being at a PWI, and this could just be specific to WPI, but I feel like this is something that happens elsewhere as well. Like, you're interacting with a lot of people who have never had a class with a person of color. Mind you, an African American, mind you, Caribbean American, mind you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's also that side of things too, right? Also right now we're dealing with a lot of intersectionality of different things, right? Like, people are really realizing that, not only am I an African American, I'm a Black person at a PWI, but I'm also an engineer, right? I'm also a student leader. I'm also, a wannabe activist. I'm also a wannabe entrepreneur. Like, we're finding things where we're also in a time where we're also like finding ourselves, right? And it's almost as if you have to make sure that you're being the best at all those things, because you wanna be somebody that people can look up to, because a lot of times I'm the only Black person in my class. Right. So I'm gonna speak up, for the next time when I'm the second Black person, and the other one is like, oh dang, I feel I'm insecure about asking this question. I'll be like, nah, bro, it's okay. Like,
lead by example type.
Yeah. So a lot of those situations have just, either been placed on us, or you've been pushed into situations like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. And Noelle, if you have had similar experiences, do you feel like those types of situations are, I don't know how to put this, more frequent, or more like, I don't know, has there been a shift in like how apparent those situations are now, since everybody's talking about this all of a sudden, if that makes sense? Do you know what I mean? Like, you guys were saying you go through this experience day to day as a Black student on a white campus, and that's just something you deal with on a daily basis. But do you feel like in the past year it's been like elevated?
I would think so, yeah. Just in like communicating with different people. I mean, I also like follow the news like really pretty closely a lot of the times, and so like I had, this whole year I've had all this on my mind like frequently a lot, and so I would talk to people about it within my circle about it a lot, and we would just share our thoughts and stuff about it. I'm trying to figure out how to put this. Since I'm remote, I wind up not really talking to a lot of people that I might usually in a class, for example. Like, usually you might run into somebody and have a conversation with them, but since it's on Zoom, like, less likely for that to happen. Yeah. And so like, I've wound up, the people I've been most talking to have wound up being my friends, who also tend to be in a similar demographic as I am. I've just noticed, people being really stressed.
Wait, that is like, so real.
Like, just the whole time, like, we're all just stressed. And
yeah.
That's what I've noticed.
You have to try to balance these life events that are going on. You just seeing nothing but trauma.
But we just keep running into these once in a lifetime events, just so many times.
Just perpetually living through history every day.
I mean, as millennials, we've seen a lot that's happened.
Yeah.
But I feel like Gen Z, you guys are on a
whole nother trajectory of shit. After you think I'm supposed to not be explicit today. Like, oh,
it's really tough for her not to curse.
It's really, really hard. And my mom listens to this podcast and she literally, and first of all, for context, Jared doesn't curse. He just doesn't. He's never really has since I've known him, and I've known him for 10 years. And so when we're on the podcast and it's just us, I'm like a sailor. And my mom's like, why do you have to curse? Jared never curses. And it's just a never ending thing.
So we'll see how many we can.
But I'm trying. I'm going to try really
how we can get through this without any curse words.
Yeah, someone should keep a tally.
The cuss count.
No, but so in this new generation, I feel like allyship is a word that's definitely been prominent recently. Do you think there's a lot of allyship on the campus at WPI?
Hold on, before you answer that, can we just get some chat engagement? Like anybody who's here listening in the chat, like maybe in 2 or 3 words, like what does allyship mean to you, like on campus specifically? I just want to see what people are saying. And maybe as they're answering, Kristophe, you can start with your response in terms of what that means to you, allyship on campus.
So allyship on campus means like, honestly, it means like people being able to, like people being willing to learn and willing to put in a little bit of work, you know, like I've had some really good allies that I, you know, really rock with on campus. Right. And they hit me and they're like, yo, listen, I have no idea what's happening right now. Like with you know, African-American community or with your community, like I know you're going to keep it straight with me. So let me know what I need to read, like send me links like that. And you know, people reach out to me for that. That's happened to me like 3 or 4 times. Is
that tiring to you? Like, does that exhaust you? Or do you feel like, because
you like educating them?
Yeah, you, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
When they come to me, yeah. Like, okay. I'm not always going to be like, oh, here, you know, you got to learn. No, I'm not going to do that. That's a lot of work, right? Mm-hmm. I got a lot of stuff I got to handle on my end, right? So I can't be doing that. Mm-hmm. But when you reach out to me, it's like, all right, bro. So you taking the first step. I'm gonna help you take the next ones. You know, I'm not gonna lead you. I'm not gonna hold your hand, right? Because that's also not my job, right? I'm still trying to learn about my history. You know what I mean?
Facts.
That's been kind of put under the rug and stuff like that, right? Mm. So it's like, let me. I can help you make your first steps, and I applaud you for making those, right? We'll check back in 3 months, see if you read what I told you. Like, see if you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's my view of allyship. You know, it's somebody who's willing to just put in a little bit of extra work to learn about, you know, the stuff that we go through.
For sure. Some things we have in the chat coming through: respecting boundaries, understanding the differences in people and appreciating them, holding yourself accountable. Oh my gosh, if I don't talk about that every single day, I swear.
It's a thing that's lost nowadays.
Ooh, I could go on a rant about that. Stepping aside when needed to allow underrepresented populations to succeed. Absolutely. Ooh, yes.
Preaching right there.
I love that one. Noelle, what about you? What does allyship on campus mean to you?
I would definitely say one of the most powerful forms of allyship on campus would be listening. Being willing to set aside your own viewpoint of the world based off of your one person experience and like listen to like how somebody else who's lived a different life from you might have interpreted something or have seen something happen, and being willing to accept that you might experience different things 2 different ways because you're 2 different people, and just being able to listen to that and, you know, just trying to keep yourself from bringing any, like, not yourself, to try and uphold the other person that might have these different experiences, and to do within your means to like, I'm sorry, words are escaping me.
No, that makes complete sense to me. And I appreciate that. We also have recognizing, promoting, and appreciating BIPOC groups on campus during all months. That's a fact.
Just like Black History Month. Like, you should celebrate that year round.
Yeah.
That's something
Listen. I've been doing that since like 2017. I tell you, I've been good.
Yes. I love that. I love that because on our Black History Month episode from last year, not this past year, but if you scroll down to the archives from last year, Jared and I basically are not arguing. Yeah, we argued, but it was because Jared, you can say your point better than I can, but
I just think that it's kind of is whitewashed just to keep it real. Black History Month kind of whitewashes, only celebrated 28 days out of the year when it should be celebrated year round. And especially the history of Black people. I mean, that's American history. So why is it only being celebrated and taught for 28 days out of the year?
Yeah.
It's a month, but I mean, it's also the shortest month of the year as well. Let's be real on that.
Okay, wait, this is actually a question. Did you guys have, I do not remember us having this at Stonehill, but you tell me if I'm forgetting something, but do you guys have courses like specifically to learn?
Like diversity?
Yeah, like African American history courses or anything like that?
If anything, there's like one, but I don't really think so.
Yeah, I think at small schools like Stonehill, WPI.
WPI isn't that small. How many people go there?
I mean, it's not a state
I
school.
think we have 6K undergrad.
Yeah, it's small.
Yeah, I guess it's small.
So like HBCUs, I can see that happening in like the large state schools. So maybe BC.
Yeah, but my thing is like that to me is part of allyship on campus. Is like just because it's a small institution doesn't mean that those sort of classes and programming shouldn't be available to people. Like,
so somebody in the chat says that they were electives. How do we feel about actually making those mandated?
I mean, that would be a pretty amazing anti-racist act that a college could do if they wanted to really take a stance. And I think that's the struggle, because so many universities now, like in the past year specifically, have had to, there's a lot of performative allyship, right? Yeah. There's statements that go out. But
they're not actually living that when there's an issue on campus and things like that.
There's statistics. We have this many Black students, or we have this many Hispanic, like, but that to me is performative allyship, in my opinion, whereas for our campuses and our students and our young people to feel
it needs to be more than that,
like they belong and like their education is just as important as everybody else's, then why is there not courses about their people? Do you get what I'm saying?
And I think that's actually is on the students for them to step up and speak on that.
I mean,
hold the university accountable.
I mean, the students can do that as an activity to, be an ally. Like, yeah, if a bunch of white students on campus got together and were like, hey, we think there should be Black history classes, like, I think the school would pass out, probably. I don't know, but...
I'm not meaning to put it on, like, the Black or the...
No, I just mean in general. I think it's an administration issue. I mean, I think the students can play a role by saying, we want this, and hold the school accountable to...
Hold them to the fire.
But at the end of the day, the students don't make the curriculum. So it's like they can only do so much. It's like, to me, these heads of these universities should be prioritizing this.
Definitely.
In my opinion. That was a little rant for sure. I want to shift us into speaking of more Black History Month, but I want to talk a little bit about, and Kristophe, I'll have you start. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your fraternity that you're a part of, and what that means to you, what that specifically means to you to be able to be a part of that at WPI, as opposed to, like, it's not a historically Black college or university. So that's a different experience than being a part of a fraternity at an HBCU. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Wow. Okay. First, I'll start with what Alpha really means to me. So speaking of Black History Month, actually, Alpha was one of the first things that actually got me interested in history. Right. I hated writing, anything that had to do with words, reading. I wasn't with it. I'm a math guy, science guy. I rock with that. Right. Until I started learning about like Black history and urban history, I was like, oh, word. Okay, this is kind of dope. Let me read up more into, like, I was actually doing like reading outside of classes, outside of, like, I had a capstone at the time when I was hoping to join the organization, right? That was about urban history. And I literally just read up on like the history of sustainability. And, of course, there's always caveats into whenever you're talking about cities, there's almost always going to be some sort of, you're gonna find Black people somewhere in the story, right? So that plus wanting to be a part of this fraternity and having to actually learn a lot of historical information about my organization, right? Mind you, we have 114 years of history, right? And you learn about damn near all of it. You know what I mean? So having to be a part of that was like, I was like, yo, this history stuff is fire. Like, I could really just, I could take stuff from history and do it right now, and it could work. You know what I mean? I don't have to think. I could just, copy and paste. Copy and paste. You know?
Learn off of their experiences.
It's so true, though.
Facts. And the thing is, like, I'm now getting to the point where it's like, yo, all my time in elementary school, middle school, high school, right? And mind you, so I grew up in Houston, Texas, right? And I took Texas history twice, in 4th grade and then in I think 7th grade or something. How come I didn't hear nothing about no black people? The only thing I heard about was slavery. Yeah. I didn't hear about how literally like so many infrastructural improvements came from black people that Texas, I believe, is one of the places that develops more infrastructure than anywhere else in the US, right? Just because they're always building stuff. Sorry,
not just me.
So having like all that was just dope to me, you know, like being able to like having to look into and make those connections and also find my own, you know, love of learning of history, right? Like that was, you know, so basically what I mean is Alpha, history, love all of that, right? Alpha's big on history, and I love the fact that my fraternity has so much history that I can learn. Also a big thing, I might listen if I'm rambling a bit because, you know, Alpha's a lot for me.
You're going. It's a platform for you.
Let me know. A big thing about the fraternity too, about the frat is mentorship and brotherhood. Like,
yes,
you know, as you know, Black American, we've been through experiences, right? I was basically like, my situation is very different, right? I basically had a single mother for half of my life, and then I lived in a 2, you know, parent household because I had a stepfather. You know what I mean? But I was also close with my dad, right? So I also had that aspect of mentorship, but it wasn't until I decided to communicate, you know, effectively with him. You know what I mean? So really, I didn't really understand how to communicate my emotions, my feelings, you know, what's stressing me out, until I really started talking to bros. Because we all, like, there's a sense of vulnerability that we all have. It's like, yo, listen, bro, you're going through the exact same stuff that I went through a couple of years ago. Let me help you through that so you can be better. You know what I mean? And that's fire. I love that. That's dope to me. Because I feel like, you know, I also have 3 little brothers, right? If I could tell them about every single mistake that I made and have them not make those mistakes, right? Granted, they're going to make their own mistakes, you know, because they're human. But just don't make mine. It's going to be like, up
to learn from you.
Yeah, you know? Nah, like, I feel like that's huge for me, right? And having like a huge support network with them, is also super dope. And then, you know, because I'm kind of I crossed under quarantine, like I haven't really experienced like, you know, the Greek events and stuff like that. But really those things of brotherhood and like actually learning about the org, those like I could be cool with that. You know, we'll wait till everything opens up so I can have a little bit of fun again. But you know, yeah. So
that's one thing that I wanted to bring up, the difference from like a Black fraternity or your fraternity per se versus the other frats and sororities on campus. At least me growing up and seeing Greek life in college, I always saw the differences between all of them. So not to make it too, I guess, different, but when I look at Black frats, I see more of just the brotherhood and the culture. I also see once you get older, you're actually making those connections in the outside world, making those connections in the corporate world. For other frats and sororities, I really don't see that happen as much. To me, it's more just about the partying and the lifestyle on campus.
Yeah.
Do y'all see that, or do you agree, disagree? I don't want to.
So I agree with that, but I think on my campus specifically, like for instance, one of my closest friends actually joined another fraternity specifically because like, yo, I'm trying to get a job. They got connects for me. I want that. He wasn't even really worried about the partying. Like he was also like, yo, it'd be a good way for me to make friends. Cool. You know?
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like from an external perspective, it does look like that because even I at our college, Stonehill, there are 0 fraternities, none, no Black ones, outlawed. No other ones, 0. It's a Catholic institution. Okay, so there were no fraternities, and it's even smaller than WPI. Like
I think we had
3,000 kids. Yeah. It's basically a high school.
Basically, the sororities and the frats were the sports teams.
It's essentially a high school. And then I immediately, after graduating from Stonehill, got my master's at Howard, which is the literal opposite of experience. And obviously, like my life, I thought I was in a I thought I was in a movie. I thought my life was not. Yeah, it was crazy, but
there's this many people that look like me that are doing the same thing that I'm doing.
Yes, and what I noticed on campus, especially with the fraternities and sororities, obviously it is a very big part of the culture at Howard. And then the only thing I have to compare that to, because there were no other fraternities or sororities at Stonehill, is what, like Jareed said, the external perspective of what happens with those fraternities and sororities, what we see on TV, right? Like we see those types of sororities as like the party house and whatever. And not to say that Black fraternities are not seen that way. Of course they party. But like my point is like,
I have the connection made.
Yeah. I mean, I have a friend who's an Alpha, and we literally were in the airport together and we're trying to get a rental, and he had like, I think he had a dog tag on that said it or something. And the guy behind the counter was also a part of Alpha, and he was like, "Oh yeah, here's like 30% off your rental." Like strangers, you know what I mean? Where it's like I don't necessarily hear or see that with white fraternities or sororities. But I want to ask you, Noelle. So I know you're in the process of trying to bring a Black sorority onto campus. Correct me or tell me if I'm saying that correctly or wrong, but. I assume that's a challenging thing to do. I honestly just want to
especially doing it remotely.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Wild. And I want to commend you, obviously, because that's something that's important to you. I just learned before we started that you're from Maryland. So you obviously, I mean, I don't know if you have members of your family who are part of this sorority and what your motivation was to bring it to campus, but I would love to hear your experience with that.
Yeah, totally. So you kind of did guess correctly. Both of my parents are blue and white. My mom is a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. My dad is a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. They met at Alpha Chapter. So sweet.
Oh, look at that. That's a love story right there.
Yeah. So I, also being, their child, I want to bring Zeta, not just because it's in my family, but because you mentioned earlier about the scene where, because your friend was a member of Alpha and he saw somebody behind the counter that was a member of Alpha. It's a family.
Yeah.
It's really a family. The connections are so strong. My dad will, walking down the streets of New York, will hug a stranger because they were both wearing their letters.
Yes. My uncle too. My uncle is part of Sigma, and he's you would everywhere.
Some of my friends are in frats and sororities.
Everywhere.
Yeah. You see the love.
It's so serious. And it's serious, and it's also very real. I've witnessed the outstretched hands that have come from being a part of these organizations. And I really want to be able to bring that to other girls like me at WPI, to form a community, a network, so that we can help each other up. And then, bring other people into the fold and the blue and white family and all of that. I just want to create these opportunities for people that look like me, so that maybe if another Noelle Morgan comes along, they'll have people that can take care of them.
I love y'all. Y'all are so motivating. Y'all make me want to go out there. That's what I said. I was like, I need to talk to Gen Z, because these people, they are motivated. They have a plan. They're ready to go.
They're powering a lot of the great movements that are happening right now.
It's amazing. And it's definitely infectious. I can definitely feel how passionate you are about that when you talk about it. And I think that is so important. I think when we were in school, we were just like you guys, just trying to get by, honestly. A lot of us were there on scholarship, or I definitely could not have afforded to go to Stonehill without playing basketball. I played basketball there, and Jareed played football. So, that was our focus at the time. And we even had a situation on campus. I don't know if anybody on this, if you have heard of this story, feel free to put a 1 in the chat. But the story of Dan Roy Henry, he was killed in 2012, and we were in college when this happened. And
he was killed in New York.
He was killed in New York.
Pace University.
He was a football player, and
we were actually there.
We were there,
in New York for a game.
Yep.
And one of our teammates, he's best friends with the kid because he's originally from Massachusetts. So after the game that night, they went out to a bar, partied. I guess a fight broke out. They went back to their car. about to leave, and a cop hopped in front of him, started giving him directions to move the car. Dan Roy, he moved the car. The cop jumped on the car.
He followed the directions.
Yeah, he followed the directions of the police officer. He jumped on the car and started shooting through the windshield, killed Dan Roy, hit my friend, my teammate as well, hit him in the arm. And it was just crazy from there.
It was crazy. And he goes by DJ too. So his organization is called the DJ Henry Dream Fund. But I will also add that he unfortunately was alive for like 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, they just left him
handcuffed on the street. And so this happened, right? While we're at school, it happened to a Stonehill student's best childhood friend. The Stonehill student was shot in the arm in the situation, and there was like literally nothing happened.
Yeah, it was kind of like quiet.
Nothing happened. Like DJ's family lived nearby our campus, like the same town that our campus is in, he was from. So we obviously made an effort to raise awareness and reach out and go to the events that they were hosting to raise awareness about the situation. The cop, by the way, got like Cop of the Year the next year. And I'm pretty sure he
got promoted.
I'm pretty sure he's a professor at Pace University, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, but nothing happened. And I remember now that we look back on that and seeing like just how your generation is reacting and is taking a stance and is not just
totally different
sitting
now.
back.
It would have
been totally different. Like totally different.
Well, and I just think like, I don't know what it is about the difference in the generations or how we grew up or the time difference, between the generations. I do believe that has something to do with it. But like, we were upset. We were like definitely upset, emotional about it. Like, it was definitely a thing for the Black students on campus, but
honestly, I think I was like, oh, this happens all the time.
Well, we weren't like mobilized. Do you know what I mean? We weren't like ready to go. We weren't like wanting to make a change or wanting to protest the administration. We're now just like your generation. And even at Stonehill, people are holding sit-ins all the time on our quad now and stuff like that. And so
actually making some actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just say all that to say, first of all, just to bring awareness to DJ Henry's story. This was in 2012, so almost 10 years ago now. But he was only 21. He was literally a junior and just like played a football game. It was crazy. Definitely look him up. Look up his organization. A lot of celebrities. He was in Jay-Z.
Rihanna
put him in his song and stuff like that. So he's definitely an organization you guys can get behind and look up his story. But I say all this to say I love how just motivated and mobilized your generation is, and I really feel like we are. Can everybody hear me? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. I really feel like, you guys are going to be the generation that changes some things.
Of course.
I think the biggest part of that, though, is literally like, we're tired of letting that stuff get swept under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are too many statistics. There's too much information, and we're in the digital age. Like,
knowledge right at your fingertips.
Exactly. And the biggest thing about that is like, if that situation were to happen today, right? Not only would y'all as a campus grieve, but everybody who follows you guys on any type of social media, they're going to be aware of that. Right?
Yeah.
And if they're not grieving, they're going to be mad because that shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? Like that's like, it's like common sense for stuff like that not to happen.
For sure.
And it seems dumb for us to have to call attention to it every time injustice happens towards somebody who looks like me or somebody who looks like Noelle or somebody who looks like one of y'all.
Yeah.
Like, why should I have to speak up about that? You should know about that stuff, right? You should know it's been happening. You know what I mean? That's where the frustration comes.
Definitely.
Because it's been happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not on us to like educate the others.
Yeah, we're not gonna educate. But we're definitely going to try and make some change. Yeah,
like you said earlier, I'll help you out. I'll give you some basic information that you need, but don't put all of it on me to better you as a human.
Facts. And I think another thing that's really helping our generation is because we have so much knowledge. Like, I can go and see how to vote. I can Google how to do a sit-in.
Yeah.
I can Google how to do a rally, and then it's happening, right? If me and Noelle want to do a rally, all I could do is hit her up like, yo, these are the steps we got to follow. This time, this place, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we can sit there and be like, yo, we just need to rent a bus. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. My bad.
You're good. You're good.
I was elaborating, like, definitely agree with what you were saying, Kristophe. The internet and Google definitely changes everything. Because the accessibility of information and ease of communication between people is like way faster and way different than like anything anyone's ever seen before these days. So like, you know, it lets us be ready. You know,
maybe that's what we were missing.
Yeah, and I could see the difference between like our generation and your generation. So like back when we were in school, it was like just okay not to be racist. Like if that was like the most minimum thing you could do, just not be racist, we were cool with that. But now, today's time, it's like you have to be more than just not racist. You have to be anti-racist, and you have to actually show the proof that you're working towards trying to get there versus you saying, "Oh, I'm not racist," with nothing to back it up with.
Right? Yeah.
I think that's what's powering you all to be the generation that's moving these movements forward. Things like that.
Yeah, I love that. I literally feel inspired right now. Like I feel like I need to go take some action. I know we set aside from 7 to 7:30 to do questions, and we're coming up on that. Also, full disclosure, my computer is running out of battery, but we still have plenty of time. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I want to ask real quick. So in regards to allyship at WPI, do you believe that you see other students acting or having allyship with students of color? And if not, what do you think needs to be done on campus for that to improve?
Yeah, so not everybody on campus is going to be an ally, but like I shouldn't have to. I believe that administration, right? Student leaders, right? When we do something, it should be recognized. You know, like I feel like a lot of stuff that like we operate in our own little bubble on campus at times. And sometimes it might be because we're afraid to reach out to administration or you know the surrounding population because we're afraid we won't really get supported. I'm not gonna lie. I know nobody I can say like I don't believe anybody's gonna support me, you know, if I were to do an alpha event tomorrow. I know Noelle's gonna pop in. Might be for 5 minutes, might be for 10. You know what I mean? Rachel's gonna pop in too. How you guys doing? What's up? You know what I mean? I can't say that for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
But it'd be good to have that sense of trust. You know, it'd be good to have that like, oh, you know what? Listen, we're going to be supported by our campus, by our community, right? That we're a part of. Because people here know allyship. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And do you think that the barrier is people don't exactly know what allyship looks like? Someone in the chat wrote, I think WPI has been pretty good with allyship, but agree it could be better. And I'm wondering, do you feel like people know what they need to be doing? And they're just not doing it, or they don't know what they need to be doing and they need to be educated on things that they can do.
Lost in the sauce.
Yeah,
I think people want to do the right thing, right? And people want to be active, but being active is more than retweets, and it's more than sharing a post. It's more than, you know what I mean?
Talking about it.
There's definite steps that are taken to create an action. That means when you see. Right. And this happened to me before, right? When your professor says the N-word in class, right? In a class where there's one person of color, you feel me? Like,
happened there?
I think I just got PTSD.
Has that happened there?
It's happened to me personally.
On campus or at WPI or
on campus. On campus. Right. And for nobody to understand why that's a problem. So you know what I mean? And actually, I had some really good allies come up to me after, and they were like, "Yo, that shit was that stuff was messed up." You know, like that was quote verbatim. You know, like that was my words. But dang.
Add one to the tally.
You know, but it would be nice to have somebody speak up in a classroom.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be nice to have somebody be like, "Yo," at a party when you know people who don't have the right to say the N-word or blasting that, you know, it'd be right for somebody to be like, yo, like, that's not right. We get you rock with the music, but you know what I'm saying? That's not going to really fly like that. But you're not always going to have those people that do that, right? That's why it's important for us to really, you know what I'm saying? Like, somebody has to say it first, because nobody else is going to say it, because nobody knows.
I mean, that was the worst parts of going to Stonehill, was like going to the party, playing those like music, and then you hear people saying a word. I'm like, you look at them like, you see me standing here, right? Like, you're trying to be, or are you just this ignorant?
But I think that's a really good example of something actionable, is just speaking up. And I was listening to some other podcasts, because that's all I do with my life, but they were talking about too, just this idea of like, I think people, because of this like performative piece of allyship, right? Like what you're doing on social media, or how people think that they're measuring their actions that are not necessarily always the right ways. Because of this piece, people are forgetting the real, the real thing you can do is just like be a good person, like be a nice person. Care about other people, empathize with other people, listen, like Noelle said, to their experiences, like be aware of yourself, have awareness of who you are and what your role in society is versus somebody who doesn't look like you. Like, I think those are just such basic things where allyship is like, that's the foundation of it, is showing up and being authentic and not being defensive and not being, like being willing to have tough conversations and not
actually
being
trying to put in the work.
And learning from it. And we get caught up in like, oh, well, like I need to do this, or I need to read this book, or I need to watch this show to like prove that I'm doing my allyship. And it's like, okay, like that's fine. Read your books, watch your shows, definitely some education happening there. But at the end of the day, like allyship for me personally is, nobody asked me, but I'm telling you my opinion. Allyship for me personally is taking the little actions every single day until forever. And more importantly than that, when you get to our age, where people are having kids and doing all that stuff, like all your friends around you are raising kids, it's like, are you raising your kid to respect my kid? Like, are you raising your little white child to grow up and be a nice person to my little black child? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's how we break it with our generations to come, is teaching people now and making people aware now, so that they're going to raise their kids with this very intentional way of like, everybody is different, and that's what makes us like great, as opposed to division. Yeah.
And I'm gonna take it back to June. So you remember after Freddie Gray and all the protests, people started doing the social media activism. Like, how many of the people that you follow and know put up a black square? But what have they done since then?
You mean George Floyd?
George Floyd. I said Freddie Gray.
Yeah.
George Floyd. I saw so many people.
Still, it applies.
Yeah, I saw so many people put up a black square who I know don't even believe in the cause or behind the reasoning of what that black square means. And they're just doing it to be performative. And I know this because I've had these conversations with them, and they're just doing it to look better for the rest of their followers. And I feel like that's just a direction that we need to start deading.
Yeah.
Because people want to be branded as an activist, right? But, activists get killed.
Cool.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like activists, you know what I'm saying?
They lose their lives. They do. Like Colin Kaepernick.
They do performative work, right? And they take risks to do that. Right. You think taking a risk is an Instagram post, you're not really doing the right thing. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. If anybody, sorry, Noelle, I want to hear your thought on that. I just want to interject. If anybody wants to start adding questions or putting questions in the question box or throwing your questions in a chat, feel free to do that. Excuse me. But Noelle, I do want to hear your take on that in terms of just like the performative allyship versus what people can do on campus every day.
Yeah. So, like you guys have brought up about the black square thing, that is such a apt description of performative allyship, where you put something up to feel like a better person about yourself. Forgive me if I'm being very blunt. And then like nothing happens after that. When there is not another person of color around you to look at you sideways, that is when you show, whether or not you really are, whether you mean it, if you mean it or not, if it means something to you, the struggles that I've been through, or that Kristophe or that any other person has been through, if it's significant to your life.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Emmanuel. He's been in the chat
He
going
or
heavy.
she, we're not sure.
Oh yeah, he or she. They've been going in heavy. But they stated, we love the Instagram repost, but that's convenient. I think activism is what you do when it's not convenient or comfortable for you. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
You got to make people uncomfortable, and that's the only way for growth, really. Just getting out of your comfort zone, learning more, being around people who are different from you, learning their experiences, and just like Asia said, being a better person.
Shout out to Demi. That's my program's chair, Nesby program's chair.
Yeah.
So
Heavy in the chat. We love it.
I would definitely have to agree with. I would definitely have to agree with Demi. Like, the freedom fighters were not just chilling. Like, they were attacked frequently, every day. You know, Martin Luther King had threats on his life every single day. In a time where they didn't have instant messaging and Instagram and like all these really quick messaging methods, he still had threats on his life every single day. You know, people hated him in the streets. And same to like any other people. Huey Newton was 21 years old when he was shot. He was a year older than I am right now, leading a force across the country and had the FBI on his tail. Like, it's so serious, and people don't realize how serious activism really can be and is, and how not long ago it was.
Yeah.
It is within public memory. And, you know, you see in history textbooks that all of this is all grayed out. And
It's not black and white.
Black and white.
It's not in black and white.
It was in color.
Long ago.
Right.
You have your parents, your uncles, your aunts, grandparents, they were living through it, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's not that far away.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing, right? I feel like someone wrote in the question and answer box, we need to do better. Okay, great. How are you going to do that? And how are you going to start holding people accountable? This is like the biggest tip I gave to my white followers, basically, on social media and on this podcast, is we cannot continue to, we have been, to Noelle's point, for years fighting this fight and voicing our whatever and being killed over it and all that stuff.
Telling you what you're doing wrong.
And it's so, to me, and I think what is becoming very clear is like we need white people, specifically being the, you know, race in our country that has
The majority.
We need y'all to host some uncomfortable conversations with your friends and family who you know are tripping. Like, I truly believe, like, specifically in your generation, there's a lot of hope for y'all to grow up and be anti-racist and raise anti-racist children. I think the struggle is exactly what Jareed just said in terms of like, who is your family? Who raised you? Those people that were not so long ago fighting for us. On the other side of that, that's somebody's like parents and grandparents who are still living too, right? And so
Who are on the wrong side of history.
Exactly. So having those tough conversations, hosting those tough conversations is definitely important.
And make them embarrassed and call them out when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
For sure. I know we are coming up on 7:00. Hopefully Rachel and Mackenzie don't get so mad at me, but I literally, full disclosure, I have this big podcasting thing hooked up to my computer and it drains all the battery. And the MacBook Airs these days, they don't give you enough ports to do what you got to do. I don't know if any college students can identify with not having enough ports on your laptop. Feel free to put one in the chat. But I have completely drained my laptop battery. So I want to give either Kristophe or Noelle a chance to just say your last piece. If there's anything you didn't get to say today that you would like to, please feel free to do that before we wrap up for the night.
There's a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Are we still taking questions? Or?
Oh, yep. A little off topic, but how do you truly feel about diversity training? I think diversity training can be effective if it's done in the right setting with the correct facilitator.
It has to be genuine.
Yeah.
It can't just be done just to check a box off and move along. It has to be genuine, has to be authentic, and like she said, from a person who
knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and actually experienced some things.
Because if I sit through another diversity training at work with like, excuse my French, but we're getting to the end, an old white lady who is like has no idea what she's talking about, I'm going to lose it. And I say that to say
Can't be whitewashed.
This is another message to everybody on this Zoom call. Like, I think the main message we want to bring to you guys is people who are out of college and working and in, fully adulting, which avoid at all costs if you can. But once you are fully adulting, these problems obviously do not go away. And so whatever experiences you guys are having in college right now with it is going to shape how you deal with it in the corporate setting. It's going to shape how you deal with it, whether you work in corporate, nonprofit, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. This is going to be an ongoing thing in our lives, unfortunately.
Just a different arena.
And it's just a different arena. Yeah. And obviously anybody who is on this podcast right now listening can follow us at Done With Adulting Pod on Instagram and engage with us. We're happy to answer questions. We believe in the power of mentorship. So, please feel free to engage with us after this podcast as well. There is one more question, which will be our last one before we go 0 dark 30, because I'm on 8% now. Is any advice for students who are going to start working in office spaces with predominantly older white people who are sometimes even more ignorant than people our age? Facts.
Good question. I would say just try to be yourself. I mean, go into the corporate world. You really can't be 100% yourself, authentic you. Like, I mean, doing certain things that the culture knows, but the corporate workspace doesn't. But just be yourself. And if you see something that's wrong and a person doing something that's not wrong, bring it to the right person. Don't hold your tongue. Don't let somebody just walk all over you, something like that.
Yeah, don't hold your tongue. I would say that was going to be my advice too. I've been at work, literally last year at work, I was minding my own business. I had braids in my hair and somebody literally walked by and yanked my hair. This happened at work. These are fully grown adults.
Fired after that.
But sometimes we're afraid to, like, in that situation, actually, I slightly snapped on the person, but I never reported it to HR because I didn't feel confident that HR was going to do anything. At least, like, my preference would be this person should be fired because who puts their hands on other people? But I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I didn't bring it to my HR officer, and then I ended up having to bring it a year later, and then they really couldn't do anything about it. So if you're in the workplace setting, just know, like, just like your university, there are resources for you to express if things are not right, or if you're not being treated correctly. And if you express those things and still nothing happens, then I would say, like,
start documenting everything.
Reevaluate. Maybe it's time for a new job, honestly, because as Jared said, this is just an ongoing thing. And yes, Rachel, thank you. If you guys have more questions after this, we will be on IG continuously forever, and we'll post a question box or something specifically for you all. So definitely follow us, definitely share. We have merch to give out tonight, and since there's a limited number of people here, everybody will get one. So Mackenzie will help us keep track of that. And it's a new drop, so we don't actually physically have it in our hands. We'll have it in about 4 weeks or so. So we'll mail it right to your school, and everybody who attended today will get that as a gift from your university, actually. So yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, Kristophe and Noelle, if you have any last words, please feel free to share, and then we will sort of wrap up.
For any people on WPI's campus, I, as the president of the Women Interested in Zeta Club, I would like to extend to you an invitation to become a part of our wonderful initiative to charter a chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated here at WPI. Please reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat, as well as the Instagram that you can, like, DM to ask for details about how you can be a part of this wonderful organization. But please, I would love to hear from all of you. If you have any questions for me in general, or any questions about Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, we can get that answered to you. For those maybe listening later who also attend WPI, the Instagram handle is at WPI_WIZ Wiz. And so I will also put that in the chat for those of you who would rather copy and paste into a search bar.
I love that. If I was at WPI, I'd be right in that group. Y'all need
a round of applause.
Get on that. Oh, the button.
Yeah.
I think I deleted it.
Also,
Sorry. Yeah.
Also, next week, the 22nd of February to the 28th, my chapter's having our Alpha Week. It's basically going to be a week-long
Dang,
of events. We'll be on Instagram at Alpha Kappa _32. Alpha Kappa _32. Pop into an event, learn something, meet some bros, have a good time. Yeah.
Amazing.
This was dope.
This was amazing.
Definitely want to thank you two for being on, sharing your experiences.
Yes.
Thank you, Rachel and Mackenzie, also WPI for having us.
Absolutely. And like I said, you guys can follow us on Instagram at Done With Adulting Pod. Also, it would be amazing if you could subscribe to us either on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, or honestly, wherever you get your podcasts. If you could leave a review, that is also really helpful for us. And this was so much fun. We hope we get invited back maybe another time in person post-corona. I don't know.
Thank you for everybody who joined as well.
Throwing it out there. Yes.
Everybody in the audience.
Everybody in the audience. So we appreciate you guys. And I'm going to play our little outro and then we'll be good to go.